Guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. I hope you guys are staying safe. I hope everything's good wherever you are. So, guys, there's some fascinating news, some big news. Apparently, Canelo Alvarez has told Eddie Hearn that he believes he can beat Oleksandr Usyk. He believes before I get into it. Obviously, I got sent this video or sent this article by Jose Diaz. I want to give a shout out to him. He said, Imran, what do you make of this? What do you make of this? And he said that he doesn't think that Canelo could beat Usyk. So Canelo basically has said to Eddie Hearn that I believe I can beat Oleksandr Usyk. Make that fight 1 pound over 200 pounds. So make it at 201 pounds. And I believe I can beat Oleksandr Usyk. Now, is Canelo for real? Does Canelo really believe that, he wants, that he believes he can beat Usyk at 200 pounds? Could Usyk even make that weight? I don't think it's realistic. Or is it something that he's saying? This fight was talked about a couple of months or like a while back, which a lot of people snubbed off and said that it's not realistic, which is not really. One guy's a super middle, not even a fully fledged super middleweight, and one guy's a heavyweight, and not just any old heavyweight. He's the current unified heavyweight champion of the world. Canelo's got a very tough fight. There's a lot of people that think that Canelo ceiling is light heavyweight, and they think that, even at light heavyweight, he may struggle against some of the guys at light heavy. So, yeah, that would be a monumental task for Canelo Alvarez. As good as he is, he's not Superman, he's not superhuman, and that would be a monster. He'd be up against a monster. Oleksandr Usyk is one of the best fighters in boxing. So he's up there with Canelo as one of the best fighters in boxing. And then when you take into the fact that skill, and then you take the size difference between the two, that would be something that would be very difficult for Canelo to overcome. Now, Oleksandr Usyk would take that fight in a heartbeat. It's one of the biggest paydays out there for him. It's against Canelo, who's the best fighter in the sport. It's a massive payday for Usyk. So, of course, he's going to jump at the opportunity. And he's fighting a smaller guy. He's not fighting a big heavyweight. So, I'm pretty sure Usyk would jump at the opportunity. Canelo's obviously up for it. Canelo does Canelo is a guy that chases legacy, and as a guy that will fight, he's proven he'll fight anyone. But Usyk, for me, Usyk has a style that gives Canelo trouble anyway. Like, even if he was his size, he would give him trouble with that style. You look at guys like Caleb Plant, at times were causing Canelo some issues. Usyk is basically a much better version and a bigger version of that, and just a much gifted fighter. And his movement, his in and out, his angles. I just don't see how Canelo can win that fight. I actually think it could be pretty boring as well. I think it could be pretty one-sided, because I think Canelo might be trying to cut off the ring. And again, the other thing is Usyk is a heavyweight. So if Usyk hits Canelo, how's Canelo going to react? He's never been hit by anyone that big, especially in a real fight. I know some of you guys say, well, he spars that heavyweight that he trains with, the guy that beat a Jagbuff, his name is Sanchez. But that's sparring, man. That's sparring. Sparring and fighting are two different things. Sparring, you're fighting with heavy gloves, big ounce gloves, and yeah, man, that would be a very difficult fight. It's not really. It's a bit like Canelo fighting Spence, in my opinion. Just that the jump's even bigger, because the weight difference is much larger. The difference between Spence moving up, but for smaller guys moving up 17 pounds, it's massive. But even for the bigger guys moving up, like for Canelo, who's not really a big guy, even at the weight he's fighting on Saturday, for him to move up to 200 pounds, so he's basically fighting Bivol at 175. So that would be about 26 more pounds he'd have to put on. Canelo he'd have stamina issues, and it'd also be slow as anything. Canelo would be slow if he fights at 200 pounds, and there's no way he could because Usyk, I don't know if he could even make 200 pounds, but just say he could. Usyk's going to put on some size. So Usyk's going to be in the ring at probably 220, probably 225. Maybe Canelo might put a rehydration clause on so he can't beef up which would be fair in that instance because the size even then, even if he puts a rehydration clause on, the size difference would be massive. Yeah, there's the you know, yeah, it'd just be too much. It just the gap in size, and yeah, it's the weight differentiation is just too big. It's too big. It's just not a competitive fight as far as I'm concerned. And I don't think, even as good as Canelo is, I think fights like that are pretty dangerous and shouldn't be encouraged. Usyk's not a big puncher, but again, Canelo's a small guy. Canelo's 5'8" against a 6'3", 200 guy that's probably 220, 230. Like, how big was Usyk against Joshua? I'm pretty sure he was like 200 and something, 200 over 220 pounds. I'm pretty sure he was something in that region. He was big. So I just don't know how Canelo would be able to. I just don't think. I don't know how Canelo would offset that size difference and the reach and the height. It's just, it'd be ridiculous. It'd be ridiculous. I actually think that would be a mismatch of the highest. I don't see Canelo beating Usyk. The size difference is too much. It's too much differentiation in weight. Eddie Hearn probably would make that fight in a heartbeat. It's a big fight, you know what I mean? And it's a big money fight. And obviously Canelo, if Canelo wants to fight somebody, that it gets made. Nobody rejects Canelo. Obviously, you've got to bear into consideration, can Usyk make 200 pounds? If he can, what would the rehydration clause be? Would Usyk agree to that? Would Usyk be safe doing that? But yeah, I just think the size is just, in these type of mythical matches, the size is just, it's just, you'd have to say Canelo's got big balls taking if he was to take a fight like that. But yeah, I just don't think, I think there's many fights out there for Canelo to enhance his legacy, rather than fight. Like, if he beats Usyk, oh my goodness, he takes himself to a different height. Imagine if he beats Usyk, it takes himself to another level. The only problem is, right, is that I would be against if Usyk was to fight him for the heavyweight title at 200 pounds. I don't think that's right. If he was to fight, like, if he's saying that I want to fight Usyk for the heavyweight title, because you know what, Canelo might go for that, because Canelo might think, you know what, I have an opportunity to become a unified heavyweight champion. But if you're gonna, like, the tradition of a heavyweight is there's no weight limit. If you now put a weight limit for a heavyweight world title fight, for me that's wrong, because that's never been the case. The heavyweights have always been able to weigh in what they want. So now if you start putting a weight limit or a weight cap for a heavyweight title fight, then yeah, that is not a good look, because then Canelo would become a heavyweight world champion, but his fight would be at a weight limit where 200 pounds, where many heavyweights won't even be able to make that weight. So how would Canelo defend his belts? Do you see what I mean? I just would be totally against that, because if Canelo just say, like, I'm not saying Canelo's gonna beat Usyk, but just say Canelo beats Usyk. What's he gonna defend against Deontay Wilder at 200 pounds when Wilder can't make 200 pounds? Or if Joshua wants to have a crack at Canelo, Joshua can't make 200 pounds. It's basically just an opportunity for Canelo to see if he can become a heavyweight champion. He won't be able to campaign there. Like, imagine if Tyson Fury says, you know what, I want to fight Canelo I want to become undisputed. Just say, right, what is Canelo then going to fight Tyson Fury? And say, you have to make 200 pounds. Tyson Fury can't make 200 pounds. So this is what I'm saying. I just don't like it. It opens up a whole can of worms, which I don't really think boxing needs, I think the heavyweight title, if Canelo wants to fight for the heavyweight championship of the world, then fight Usyk by all means. But, there shouldn't be no weight cap. It should just be whatever weight you want to come into. So if Canelo wants to come in at 180 pounds and Usyk comes in at 230 pounds, then so be it. If we look at the difference between Wilder and Tyson Fury, I believe the first fight, I think Wilder was 210 and Fury was like 260 or something, 250 or something. So there was about 50-pound difference between the two. 50 pounds between Fury and Deontay Wilder. So again, these type of fights, I don't know. It's crazy because firstly, I think it could be dangerous when you're putting a guy that big in with a guy as you know of Canelo's stature, because Usyk is massive. Usyk is not a small, like, he's not a small guy. You know, this is a big guy. He's a 6'3", built like a house. He's massive. He's huge. And also Usyk isn't a feather-fisted fighter. He can punch. I know people say he's not the biggest puncher. Trust me, he can punch. You know, he had Joshua all over the place on rocky legs. He also had Derek Chisora, who's got pretty good chin. Right? So these are heavyweights. Remember, these are guys at 250 pounds. And if you're able to wobble guys of 250 pounds, you know, like Joshua's not known for having the greatest chin, but Chisora's got a pretty solid chin, and he wobbled Chisora. So Usyk's definitely got power. You know, he's definitely got power to rock you and keep you honest. And Canelo is a super middleweight, really. You know, he's not even a big super middleweight. So this would be for me a step too far. Or maybe a couple steps too far. You know, you don't even know if Canelo beats Beterbiev. You know, let's see how Canelo handles. If Canelo absolutely smokes Bivol and Beterbiev, then maybe that's a talking point. If Canelo absolutely smokes Bivol and Beterbiev and he absolutely destroys them, then there may be a clamor to him for him to fight Usyk. There may be a clamor, you know. And what a statement that would be from Canelo. What a move. But again, I think Canelo should be smart. Canelo's got a lot of guys that he can fight. Canelo's got a lot of great fighters out there that he can fight in around his weight class. That would be pretty easy fights. Like, Canelo could beef up his legacy and resume by fighting Charlo, Andrade, Benavidez. Just beef it. He doesn't have to go up to and fight Usyk and, in my opinion, lose a fight just to prove greatness, because I don't think he'd beat Usyk. I think Usyk would have to be handicapped some way in order for Canelo to win that fight. I think if Usyk is allowed to fight out, like, just say if even fight at 200 pounds, but there's no rehydration clause and Usyk's comfortable, he wins that fight. Like I said, Usyk would have to be handicapped in some way for Canelo to win that fight. Otherwise, he ain't going to win. Because what you got to understand is there's a difference when you're moving up weight, right? And fighting somebody that's vulnerable, fighting somebody that's not that good. For example, like, I don't think Canelo would beat Joshua, if I'm honest with you. I think Joshua's too big. But, like, and this might sound a bit crazy, I probably give him more chance against Joshua. Not to say I would pick him against Joshua. What I'm saying is I probably give him more chance against Joshua than I do against Usyk. Because Usyk is such an assured, compact, great fighter with such great boxing skills, right? I just don't see how stylistically Canelo could beat him, right? Because I don't think Canelo can hurt Usyk. Usyk is very strong and he takes a good punch. We saw that in the Joshua fight because Canelo don't hit harder than Anthony Joshua. And he hit Usyk with a lot of shots and Usyk just shook it off. So that tells me that Usyk's got a pretty good chin and he's not going to go down against Canelo, right? So then it comes down to, can Canelo outbox Usyk? But Usyk is a master boxer. That's what Usyk does. And then when you consider the fact that Usyk is so much bigger, it's got all the physical advantages. I just don't see how he does it. I don't think that would be. I don't think that would be pretty competitive, if I'm totally honest with you. So yeah, I personally think, yeah, I don't think this is a fight that should be entertained. But again, if it was to be made, we'd all be excited, we'd all watch it. I just don't think from a competitive standpoint, this is a very competitive fight. And as big a fan I am of Canelo, and I believe sometimes I also am one that's guilty for thinking Canelo can walk on water, which he obviously can't. I think this is a very difficult matchup. Look, maybe Canelo's just said it to Eddie Hearn as a joke. We don't know the context of it. But like I said, it won't put it past me because Canelo does strike me as somebody that wants to do crazy things. He wants to, he you know, this would put an end to all the ducking narrative, right? Because Usyk like, I hope Christian won't disagree with me, but Andrade isn't on the level of Oleksandr Usyk, right? So I'm pretty sure even Christian would agree with that Oleksandr Usyk is better than Andrade in terms of the guy's skill level is on another level, right? And most likely Usyk would outbox Canelo, right? So if Canelo was to fight Usyk, I think that would put an end to all the narrative about Canelo ducking all these guys. But again, I don't think that's a realistic fight. But who knows? You know, have we seen crazy things? We saw Khan fight Canelo, right? Khan, that was a fight that came out of nowhere. Let's be brutally honest. It came out of nowhere. No one was expecting that. So would it surprise me? No, because crazy things have happened in boxing. But yeah, I think it would be a match where you're putting in one of the biggest stars in the sport in a fight where he probably will lose. And I think there's too much for Canelo to lose. Now, some people may say, well, if he loses to Usyk, it doesn't hurt him that much. But at the end of the day, Canelo can't afford to lose. He's a commodity, you know. Any loss, even if he goes up and fights a guy way bigger, if he loses a fight, it's going to hurt his value, you know. So I don't personally think that, you know, anyone's going to be putting him in with Usyk because of he'll lose value, in my opinion. It doesn't matter. The fact that if Canelo was to lose, he would lose value, you know. And I don't think a fight with Usyk is sensible. But again, you know, who knows? Crazier things have happened in boxing. Let me know your thoughts. What do you guys think? Do you think this is just talk, or do you think this could actually happen? Let me know what you think in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.